Good morning, Desert Skies. I had to pause to think about that because I most recently served up at Desert Mission, and I knew I was going to mess it up. Desert Skies. Got it right, didn't I? All right. I got to tell you that I've been praying for this church for about 11 years now, because when I came here 11 years ago to serve at St. Francis in the Foothills, just down the road here, I began meeting weekly with Reverend Ed Denham, and he talked about you guys all the time. Some of you not so well. And so I've been praying for you because I knew you had to deal with him, and I knew some of the struggles that you were dealing with each other, and what it meant to be a church is always something to pray for, isn't it? And so I thank you for letting me come and be with you today. I also want to acknowledge the choir, because choirs are amazing. What you've done and just singing today, I don't know how many times I've been told by someone in the greeting line as they were leaving, I'm sure glad the choir was here for you today, Pastor. You guys often save us, and you make the service so much better. So thank you for what you've done. Take a good rest, won't you? I also want to say thank you to Pastor Brooke. Brooke has been a friend of mine for a while, but mostly because her husband, Mike, is having to fix all the stuff I did wrong at St. Francis. And so I pray for both of them on a regular basis. So to get started, let me just tell you, Happy Independence Day. You may not think it's Independence Day, but 25 de Mayo is Independence Day in Argentina. It's when Jose de San Martin came into the city of Buenos Aires and liberated that country, much as George Washington did the liberating here in the United States. And I've been celebrating that Independence Day since at the ripe old age of 19 years old, I ended up in that country for 2 years to be able to learn a new country, to be able to grow in who I was, and they grew me into something I never thought I would be. And so I continue to celebrate with them. I continue to celebrate 4 Independence Days. July 4th is coming, but July 9th is the Independence Day in Peru, where I go on a regular basis. And I also celebrate 16 de septiembre, the 16th of September, which is Mexican Independence Day. And that's because I taught first, second, and third bilingual students for years, many of them from Mexico. And each of those countries grew me into something larger. They kind of scared me a little bit too. The first time I arrived in Argentina, nobody met us at the airport. And I had to figure out what to do in that country where I thought I knew what I was talking about and didn't know a thing at all. Couldn't hardly communicate, and somehow they grew me into something better than what I used to be. And first graders, if you haven't sat with a class of first graders before, you know they're scary. And they grew me into something much more than what I would ever thought I could be because of who they were and what they grew me into. But I had to grow into that definition. It didn't just come as a given. I had to choose a larger world. And I grew up in a place that isn't always known for being wrong, Texas. They kind of hold their truth really strongly down there. And they told me certain stories that I had to learn weren't the whole story. Has anybody else been taught that by some of your upbringing? Anybody else had to grow into something more? I'll tell you where it began to change with me. My sport in high school was cross country and track. I ran long distance. I loved just running and running. And the people who ran with me a lot in my little South Texas town called Beeville were my little Hispanic friends, because they have the perfect body for long distance. And my junior year, we had a really good team coming up, and so I needed the summer track program, but our coach was leaving, and so the city was going to cut it. I needed it. So I got all my friends together, and we went out, and we got petitions from kids all across the city, and we brought it into the city council member, and we presented our petition. And the most interesting thing happened at that meeting that had nothing to do with my plan. There were 5 people on that city council board, but 2 of them weren't sitting on the dais. They were sitting on the front row. Now, this is a town that is more than 50% Hispanic, and those 2 Hispanic members of the city council were sitting in the front row because they were protesting that their community was underrepresented. And I looked down the row at Isaac and Jesse and Gonzalo and Gilbert, the people that I ran with on a regular basis, and I realized that I hadn't had to see the world through their eyes before, that they were the ones that were underrepresented, and I, in my place of privilege, got to have more than they did. And it began to change me, began to make me think, what else am I not seeing? What more should I see? How can I grow into a new definition? All of us hold on to our own perspective way too much, way too easily. And if we're honest with ourselves, sometimes way too stubbornly. We like our own opinions and perspectives, don't we? And yet God is always a bigger perspective than that and tries to grow us into that. Now, I don't mind the bigger perspective as long as God is trying to change you. It's when God is trying to do that to me that I kind of hesitate and fight back. Anyone else with me on that? But God is our bigger perspective, always and everywhere. I grew up in a place where I had some of my family, church, community tell me I had truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I've learned since that is never true, and that we have to all grow into something more. One of the tragic statements about our life is that we've often chosen a partisan, easy way rather than the fullness of what God gives to us. By that, I mean things like our politics have often informed our religion better than our religion has informed our politics. But our religion says something different. Politics tells us which side to be on. Religion tells us that every one of us is part of the family of God. Yes, even that person. Whoever it is that you argue with, struggle with, don't understand, they're part of that family of God, and we are invited to remember that and to remind each other of that on a regular basis. Christ breaks down the walls that we build on a regular basis. And we that Christ, that's the purpose of that Christ light in many ways, is to shine on us differently than what we'd seen before. Help us to see more than what we'd seen. Draw us towards a larger perspective. The word religion, if you break it down into its component parts, that's religio, which means legio is to tie together again. To tie us into one again and again. Religion is to help us break down what we've built between us. The walls we've made, the hatreds we've caused, the causes that cause me to be right and you to be wrong, or vice versa. Religion tears down the walls we built. Ephesians says it this way: Christ is our peace and makes us into one, and breaks down every dividing wall between us, those who are far off and those who are near. I love the song that the praise team sang this morning. Sing like you know that freedom is here. Because on a regular basis, those things that we cling to cause us to believe something different than what Christ says. Cause us to have reasons to leave someone on the other side of the wall. Cause us to have reasons to not want to like that other person. Not accept, not love. But Christ breaks down the walls and calls us to something more. Our social principle today starts off with these words. We recognize, embrace, and affirm all persons. Now, how many kind of agree with that? That's a good thing but then it goes into some of the specifics. It says, regardless of. Now, you can put whatever you want to after regardless, but we all have reasons why that person isn't quite. Why that person doesn't deserve, or why that person has somehow broken a rule. But our faith tells us, love, embrace all as children of God. Now that's hard, because sometimes I can't even embrace the people I love the most, right, honey? It's difficult, right? Because we get into those places where we separate simply and easily. And yet there are certain things that this social principle is calling us to. As you read further in the social principle, I invite you to go back and look at it. It says that everyone should have basic needs. That's part of the love we give. Everyone should have basic needs like housing, healthcare, education. We urge Church Insider to recognize the gifts of each other. And when we start building walls, guess what's the first thing we forget about? Whatever gifts those people are. When I start building the wall, I see the wall, not the person who is on the other side who might help, bless, give something to me or to the society around me. And the third thing that it does is it talks about families and how families should stay together. Now think about those three things. Everyone should have basic needs. Everyone should have the right to be able to be recognized for their gifts, and every family should be together. Don't we believe that as Christians? And yet sometimes in our policies, it becomes easy to push each other away, to forget about each other, to revel even in our forgetting. That's what happens sometimes when we erect the borders, the walls, the divisions between us. And we erect those things for good reason. But this statement is not a political statement. This statement is a moral statement. It's not a statement about which side of the wall is right or wrong, which side of the argument is right or wrong. It's about what we're supposed to do in the midst of it. What should we do with people that are different than us? People that are struggling, people that are maybe lost and broken. This is a justice issue. Immigration is a justice issue. It's a moral issue, not a political one. And when we turn it into the political, it's because that's simpler, but it's not necessarily of God. Asylum seeking, for example, because many of the people that are currently crossing the border or have been crossing for the last 5 years or so are coming through the asylum route. And they're coming across the border and saying, I'm searching for asylum, which gives them a different status, at least temporarily. Do you know where that came from? Pre-World War II, late 1930s. Ships from Germany left and went around the world, carrying Jewish members of that country. They went to country after country, knocked on the doors and said, can you give us a space? And every country, including the United States, said no. They were sent back to Germany, and we know the rest of the story, don't we? The world looked at themselves after World War II and said, we can't allow that to happen again. That there's something more just, more moral that should happen instead of that. And so we set up the asylum system to be able to say, we will at least hear your need. Now, oftentimes the asylum pleas come and say, oops, sorry, that's not a big enough reason, we send them back. It doesn't render an ultimate judgment, but it does say in that moment, we are going to be moral, not political. We're going to listen to you and hear what you have to say to see if we need to step into a space. The problem is that we have often taken immigration and turned it into a simple black-white, easy issue. For example, the worst law we ever passed around immigration happened in 1996. It was passed by a Republican Congress and signed by a Democratic president, and it did what had never been done before in immigration law in the United States. It criminalized crossing the border. It allowed us to be able to say, now they're illegal. Not just border crossers, now they're illegal, now they're criminals. And we black and whited it so that we could be right instead of being just, instead of having to look at what was going on. It's an important thing because it's easier to be right than to sometimes do the right thing. And our social principle tells us to do the right thing in each moment. That doesn't mean that everyone gets to cross the border indiscriminately, but that what we have to do is look at people, not laws. That we have to deal in the moral situation, not in the legal situation or the political situation. But we know that because for years we've had a poem that screamed out to us from the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. Because we knew that if we were in that space of saying, you're welcome here, that our love for them would grow them into something more. How many of you have immigrants in your family? My own grandfather was covered across the ocean, carried in the arms of his father in the early 1900s, and came here for, as many people, a better life. And he left his Dutch homeland and came here and became something different more than what he could have, and gave life to me because of that choice, and grew into something that he could never have been back there because of this space we offer. We can still offer that space. We can still be the ones who listen to those tired, poor people, the ones that right now maybe won't give much, but we can see the future in who they are. Every wave of immigrants to the United States has met with opposition, sometimes violent opposition, to say you can't come, you shouldn't come, you're wrong to come. And guess what? Every wave has been a blessing to the United States. Every single one of them, including your ancestors. And in this space, we have to see the future more than we see the present. And it's easy to see the problems. It's easy to see the issues that happen right now. But can we see the future that God has in front of us? The Bible is an ongoing story of immigration. Again and again, telling us an immigrant story of what can be. It's the story of Abraham leaving his land of Ur and coming to the Holy Land. Going to Egypt, coming back. It's a story of Moses. It's the story of Jesus leaving shortly after his birth in his mother's arms and going to Egypt as an immigrant and then coming back home. It's a story of immigration, of refugees, and it's a celebration that God is present in those stories. When a stranger sojourns with you, you shall not oppress the alien, says Leviticus. For you were aliens in the land of Egypt. You needed help, so help the one who is in need, it says. You needed help. And we forget sometimes that we needed help. It's easy to be able to think, oh, they're the only ones who did. But if you look in your past, whether or not you came from another country, you will see the places where you immigrated from what you were to what you needed to be. I come from White Mountain Stock, up on the eastern border of Arizona. And this week, good and strong and independent people have needed to immigrate. Why? Because of the Greer Fire. The Greer Fire has been burning, starting from Greer and heading right towards Springerville and Eager, which is where my parents and my grandparents, my great-grandparents have grown up. And right in the middle of that was a little place where Winky lived. Winky is my cousin. Winky is the granddaughter of Molly Butler, if you know the inn in Greer. Aunt Molly to me. She sits in that space, as independent a woman as what I know. And she needed people to care for her because she needed to leave that ranch and go somewhere else for a time. She needed to go somewhere where she would be safe from the ravages of that fire. I have a favorite poem called Home. It's written by Warsan Shire. It says this: "No one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. You only run for the border when you see the whole city running as well. Your neighbors running faster than you, breath bloody in their throats. You only leave home when home won't let you stay. No one leaves home until home is a sweaty voice in your ear saying, 'Leave, run away from me now. I don't know what I've become, but I know that anywhere is safer than here.'" That's the voice my cousin Winky heard this week, whether she wanted to or not. Whether she thought that she could fix that fire or not, she heard that voice saying, "Leave, find a safe space." And we need to be that safe space for those who run to us. Maybe to hold them for just a time and send them back. Maybe to keep them forever and let them enrich who we are. The proof comes in what we do in that moment. 10 years or so ago, a young, wonderful, newly christened lawyer came to a bunch of us pastors. She was this daughter of one of the people that I was ordained with. And Emma is her name. She came to us and said, "I want to start something new. In the United Methodist Church, we have a thing called Justice for Our Neighbors. And what it is a series of legal clinics all across the nation that basically come together to be able to say, how do we help people answer this question? The question that if you're in an immigration space, if you're an immigration advocate, you hear all the time. Well, why don't they come legally? AZJ Fund, Arizona Justice for Our Neighbors, helps people come here legally. They are lawyers like Emma and like the others that serve with her. And they take these cases and they try to help solve some of the legal issues that are out there. They try to find, is there a legal reason why they can and should stay, or is it a time to be able to let go of them? It is a way to be able to say, come and we will help you to be legally here. ACJ Fund has helped hundreds of people to come and immigrate legally into the United States. And that's only one of many things here in the Tucson area that support immigration. If you would like to know more about it, or if you would like to donate, look in your bulletin, find my name. It's a pretty uncommon name. And go to your Facebook page, type that in, and you will see that I'm doing a fundraiser in support of ACJ Fund. ACJ Fund is worth your money. It doesn't solve all the issues, but it gives us space for things to happen. And it gives us a chance to be able to move forward. If you don't, when you read my Facebook page and see what ACJ Fund does, if you don't like what that does, find another space. Find how it is that you can be involved somehow in holding a space of safety for people that are in difficult spaces, difficult situations, places where home is the mouth of a shark and they don't know where to go or what to do. See, that poem is our home in many ways, but we can give that home back to each other. How we can be a space of safety that holds you for a moment and then releases you to whatever else life is calling into you. Matthew, in our New Testament lesson, tells us something important, that when we hold each other, when we see someone who's thirsty and give them to drink, when we see someone who's lost and we show them the way, when we find a way to be able to be present for them just in that moment, we see Christ present in them and in our interaction. And when we ignore that, we fail to do what the King is asking us to do. It's a pretty simple thing. See someone in need, reach out. See someone lost, see someone who is strange, be there for them in one way or another. Philip Phillips was the winner of one of the seasons of American Idol. And a song that he sang during that time became the anthem of the London Olympics. And it said this: "Hold on to me as we go. Just know you're not alone, because I'm going to make this place your home. Don't pay no mind to the demons that fill you with fear, because I'm going to make this place your home." Most every single person that I know who has crossed the border, and these are people who had magnificent whatevers back there that are now sitting in a space of need. They're just saying, give me a space for a time. Let me breathe. My friend Ben is a Border Patrol agent, BORTAC, the tactical unit of the Border Patrol. And we sit and talk on a regular basis. His job is to do the opposite of what I do. I catch the people that are struggling with the system. He is the system. He says, but currently, he isn't allowed to really do his job, because the system is all about enforcement, or what it has to be is about what do we do with the issue. How do we solve things? How do we be there for each other? How do we change things into something more? How do we become a system that grows people, not keeps them away? I try to learn from him, because my first thing is to embrace. His first thing is to push away. And we both need to learn from each other how to do that. I recently returned to my mountain home for my cousin's funeral. This was a space that I ran away from my roots on my own immigrant path, I guess you could say, as I left the religion of my childhood and let God lead me into something more. When that home, that religion was a shark, I left and found Methodism. And ultimately it was you, the Methodists around me, that gave me a space I didn't believe I needed, because I was in the truth. And yet I found in this space that you gave me something more of what God wanted out of me. Every single immigrant that you know, however they're immigrating, is looking for home. You have the opportunity to give that. Find something, whether it's ACJ-FON or something else, find some way to be home for those immigrants around you. Vex King says it this way: yes, hurt people hurt others, but fortunately, free people free others. Safe people shelter others. Enlightened people illumine others. And love always wins. My motto for life is very simple. Choose love. How can you choose love with the immigrants around you? Amen?